Welcome, traveler. Welcome to a journey not of conquest, but into the deep, quiet breath of the world as it prepares for sleep. Tonight we do not seek the clamor of history. We seek its silences, the long, patient pause between the last harvest and the first frost, the hush that falls upon a field when the sun's warmth becomes a distant memory. So if you are able, allow the lights of your world to dim. Let the sounds of your day recede like a tide, pulling away from the shore, leaving only the soft, steady rhythm of your own breathing. We travel now to a place on the edge of memory, to a story etched not in ink, but into the turning of the seasons. And there, in the gathering twilight, a guide is waiting. The change arrives first as a scent on the air. It is the smell of damp, turned earth rich and dark, with a profound tiredness mingled with the fragrance of the last crimson leaves clinging to their branches. You breathe it in, and it feels like a collective sigh from the world itself. You open your eyes, and you are no longer in your room. You are standing at the edge of a vast empty meadow shrouded in the violet light of twilight. The vibrant greens of summer have faded to a pale, weary gold. The sky above is a canvas of deep indigo, brushed with the last faint strokes of a sun that has already surrendered to the horizon. It is a world holding its breath. A coolness seeps up from the ground, a gentle but insistent reminder that the season of warmth is over. The grass is tipped with the first delicate crystals of frost, each blade a tiny silver spear. And it is in this profound stillness that you see her. She is standing a short distance away, her form a dark, graceful silhouette against the fading light. A cloak the color of a starless midnight is wrapped around her shoulders. She seems less like a person and more like a natural part of the landscape, a spirit of the twilight. As you draw closer, you see her hair is as dark as the rich earth, woven with a few dried stalks of barley, a fragile crown of the concluded harvest. Her face, pale in the dim light, holds a sorrowful beauty. Her eyes seem to contain two worlds at once in their depths. You see the memory of endless sun-drenched flowers, but also the calm, unblinking knowledge of a vast and total darkness. She turns her head slowly, her gaze finding you without surprise, as if she has been expecting you all along. Her voice when she speaks is not loud. It is like the rustle of turning leaves, like the sound of seeds settling deep within the earth. Ah, she says, a faint, sad smile on her lips. You have arrived at the quiet time, the season of farewells. Can you feel it? Her question is a gentle invitation. You find yourself nodding. You can indeed feel it, a sense of profound melancholy in the air, a beautiful sadness you cannot name. It is my mother's grief, you feel, she explains softly. When I must leave her, she weeps. And when she weeps, the world forgets how to bloom. The trees let go of their leaves in sympathy. The ground grows hard and cold. All of nature joins her in her sorrow. You stand there captivated by her words. A question forms in your mind. Who are you? She looks back at you, her eyes seeming to read the question in your own. I am a queen of two courts, she says, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. I spend half of my life in a kingdom of brilliant light and endless flowers, a world dizzy with the scent of hyacinths. My mother's worlds. She pauses, pulling her dark cloak a little closer. And the other half, I spend in a different kingdom, a place of tremendous, echoing silence, a realm of sleeping roots and forgotten memories, lit by the pale light of gemstones that grow in the dark. It is a kingdom of shadows, ruled by a quiet, lonely king. In the world above, she continues, they call me Kor, the maiden, but in the silent world below, her voice trails off. In the world below, they call me by my true name, the one spoken in hushed tones, the name of a ruler. I am Persephone. The name lands softly in the twilight air. This is the maiden of the myth, the daughter of the harvest, the bride of the underworld. But the figure before you is no simple victim. There is a strength in her stillness, a resilient wisdom in her sad eyes. The stories they tell of me are of a theft, she says, her voice steady and clear, of a girl stolen from a meadow. That part is true, but they rarely speak of what came after. They do not speak of the bargain or how I learned to rule a kingdom of ghosts, and in so doing brought balance to your world. She gestures to the sleeping fields around you. This cold, this quiet, this long sleep of the earth. It is not a curse. It is a promise. It is the promise that after the darkness, there will be light. After the winter, a spring. It is the rhythm my story gave to the world. She turns to you, her expression, one of calm invitation. Tonight, I will not tell you a story of violence. I will tell you a story of balance, of a love that was both a sorrow and a solace. I will show you the beauty of darkness and the majesty of a world that knows how to wait. She extends a hand, and you feel an instinct to trust this guide who stands so perfectly between the worlds of the living and the dead. So she whispers her voice a final soothing lullaby. Come with me. Let the world you know fade away. Breathe in the scent of the coming winter and do not be afraid. We will walk through the heart of this great silence together, and I will show you that even in the deepest shadow, a different kind of flower can learn to bloom. The soft, ambient sound of a cool, gentle wind continues from the introduction. You are standing beside Persephone at the edge of the twilight meadow. The melancholy of the dying year hangs in the air, a beautiful silent presence. She turns to you, her dark cloak rustling softly. The great stories of the gods. She begins her voice, a low murmur that seems to merge with the wind, are said to be written in thunder and starlight. They are mistaken. The truest stories, the ones that anchor the world, are written in much quieter ink. They are found in the simplest of places. She gestures with a slender hand, an invitation to follow. Come. Let me show you where my own story truly begins, not on the sun-drenched peaks of Olympus, nor in the echoing halls of my silent kingdom. It begins here in the humble heart of a mortal home. You follow her, leaving the vast open field behind. You move through the sleeping village, a labyrinth of dark, silent houses whose thatched roofs seem to absorb the faint light of the rising moon. Your footsteps make almost no sound on the packed earth paths. She leads you to a small dwelling, indistinguishable from the others, and brings a single finger to her lips. Let us not enter, she whispers. A home is a sacred space, and its peace should not be disturbed. But if we are quiet, if we still our own breathing, we can look inside. The walls of a human heart are far more transparent than you might think. You stand with her in the cool darkness, peering through a small uncovered window. The air that drifts out is warm, carrying the scent of a dying fire, of baked barley bread, and of human sleep. Inside the single room is a world of soft shadows and deep peace. A low fire pulses in a central hearth, casting a weak golden glow that dances on the clay walls. You can just make out the forms of a family sleeping together on a bed of straw and wool blankets in the corner, their breaths rising and falling in a gentle, unified rhythm. "Listen," she says, her voice barely a breath. "Past the whisper of the wind in the eaves. Can you hear it? That is the soft crackle of the last embers. And that is the slow, even breathing of a sleeping child. These are the first and most ancient songs of the world." Your eyes adjust to the gloom, and she guides your gaze to another corner of the room. There, in a small niche carved into the wall, you see a shrine. It is not grand. There is no polished marble, no gleaming metal. It is a place of intimate daily conversation. "They are us," she explains softly, as you notice two small figures standing within the alcove. "My mother and I shaped from the very clay that gives them life. The larger one, the woman with the wide hips, who holds the memory of summer in her arms, that is Demeter, the giver of life. And the slender one, the girl holding a single, perfect flower, that is me as I once was, Kor the maiden. The figures are crudely shaped, you realize, formed by hands that knew more of soil than of art, yet they are full of a tender, loving spirit. Before them rests a simple clay dish holding the day's offerings. You lean closer, trying to make them out in the dim light. They seem so humble, you might think observing a small mound of golden grain and a single sticky honey cake. "Do they?" she responds, as if hearing your thought. "To a family that has little, a handful of their first harvest is a treasure. A cake made with precious honey is a feast. It is not the value of the gift that reaches us, you see. It is the weight of the love with which it is given. It is the small sacrifice that makes the offering sacred. As you watch a woman detaches herself from the shadows near the hearth, it is the mother of the house. Her movements are slow, weary from a day of labor, but as she approaches the shrine, a different quality emerges. Her steps are deliberate, her posture reverent. This is not a chore. This is a ritual." She kneels before the niche. Her hands, you can see, are calloused and stained with soil, but they move with a gentle certainty. She breaks off a small piece of bread from a loaf resting nearby, the first piece you sense from her own portion, and places it on the clay dish. Then her lips begin to move, but no sound escapes. She is praying. "She is speaking to my mother now," Persephone whispers to you, her voice a soft interpretation of the silent scene. She is telling her of the fields of her worries, for the coming rains of her fear that the blight might find the barley. She is asking for the simple miracle of continuation, for life to answer life. It is a practical prayer, a conversation born of a life lived in partnership with the earth, a life of absolute dependence. The woman's prayer seems to go on for a long time, a silent, heartfelt plea. Then her gaze shifts. It moves from the statue of the mother to the smaller one of the daughter, the figure of Kor. Her expression softens, and a new layer of emotion crosses her face, a tender, aching vulnerability that is almost painful to witness. Her eyes drift toward the other side of the room, where her own young daughter is curled in sleep. And now, Persephone breathes her voice, filled with a profound empathy. The prayer changes. It becomes more personal, more fragile. The mother's hands clasp together. Her silent prayer continues, but you can feel its new direction, its new urgency. "She prays to me." Persephone confirms, her voice now a vessel for the woman's silent words. She prays to the maiden to shield her own maiden from a shadow she cannot name. She asks that her daughter's path be one of sunlight, not of darkness. She does not know, of course, that she is weaving my story into a lullaby for her child. In her love, my tragedy becomes a prayer for protection. In her fear, my fate becomes a quiet warning whispered across the worlds. The mother lingers for a moment longer, a silent guardian in the dim light. Then her prayer complete, she touches the base of the shrine one last time, a gesture of both reverence and farewell. She rises and returns to the warmth of the hearth, her ritual finished for the night. A profound peace settles over the small room, a silence now filled with the weight of this powerful, unseen devotion. The great temples make a loud noise in the world, Persephone reflects as you both draw back from the window. Their chants and sacrifices echo to the heavens, but the foundation of all faith, all hope is here, in this quiet corner, in a single whispered word from a mother's heart. This is the seed from which all other stories grow. She turns to you, her eyes holding the deep, calm wisdom of one who has seen this ritual repeated for eternity. Our work here is done, she says. The prayer has been heard. Let us leave this family to their peace and continue our walk through the sleeping soul of the world. Chak chan roy. Abdong fong kach tu sulian makjai. La fan kich ban chitia cho. Fan joan. 1.2 noi tiep ngai. So ki ban va Persephone roy. Koi nangoin ha kwang goi nong dan. The scene shifts. You are no longer standing before the small warm house. You follow Persephone as her silent footsteps lead you away from the sleeping village up a winding path onto a secluded hillside. The air here is colder, sharper, carrying the scent of wild thyme and damp stone. The moon is a slender silver sickle, offering little light. The world is draped in a profound and watchful darkness. The prayer of one, Persephone's voice, cuts softly through the night, is a whisper carried on the wind, but the prayer of a community that is a power that can move the earth itself. It is a song the ground remembers. She stops at the crest of the hill. Below you, in a shallow natural amphitheater, a strange and secret scene unfolds. 100 fires flicker like captured stars, their torchlight casting dancing, elongated shadows. Around these fires gathers a great company of women, only women. Their faces illuminated by the flames are solemn, their expressions a mixture of sorrow and a fierce, quiet determination. There are no men here, no sons, no husbands. For 3 nights they have left that world behind. You are witnessing a mystery. Persephone murmurs her voice close to your ear, a conspiratorial whisper against the cool air. This is the Thesmophoria, a ritual older than many of the gods on Olympus. Here these women do not pray for victory or for riches. They come to share a vigil with my mother. They come to grieve with her, so that they may one day rejoice with her. You watch the scene mesmerized. This is not a festival of joy. There is no music, no laughter. The only sound is the low rhythmic chanting of hymns, ancient melodies that rise and fall like the breathing of the earth. The women move with a slow, deliberate grace, their unity a silent, powerful force in the darkness. They have built temporary shelters from branches and leaves, simple, fragile structures that will be abandoned when their work is done. For these 3 days, they live as my mother did when she was searching for me without comfort, sustained only by fasting and by a shared sacred purpose. Persephone then guides your gaze toward the center of the gathering. There you see a deep cleft in the earth, a natural chasm that seems to lead down into the planet's core. It is a dark, waiting mouth in the soil. That, she explains, her voice, imbued with a deep reverence, is the megaron, the scar left upon the world on the day I was taken. For them, it is a gateway, a place where the world of the living touches the world of the dead. It is the reason they are here. A procession of women chosen for the task begins to move toward the chasm. They carry their offerings. You see now what they hold. In their arms are not baskets of fruit or jugs of wine. They carry young pigs, creatures of the earth, symbols of its boundless fertility. Do not see this as a brutal act, Persephone says, sensing your apprehension. See it for what it is, a feeding of the ground, a returning of life to the source of life. They are not taking, they are giving. They are sending a message of life down into the darkness, a reminder to the silent world below of the world of warmth and breath above. One by one they offer their sacrifices to the chasm, along with cakes of dough shaped like serpents and other symbols of the underworld. Their actions are not frantic. They are precise, ritualistic, each movement steeped in a tradition passed down through countless generations of mothers and daughters. This is not a prayer of words. Persephone continues her voice, a soft, interpretive guide to the strange magic unfolding before you. It is a prayer of actions, a reenactment. By casting these symbols of life into the earth, they are mirroring my own descent. By fasting and mourning in this cold, lonely place, they are sharing in my mother's grief. They believe in the deepest parts of their souls that if they share the sorrow of the gods will in turn share their joy. They are helping my mother to find me. You stand in the flickering torchlight, a silent witness to this profound and ancient rite. This is a faith that is not abstract. It is earthy, physical, and deeply connected to the cycles of the body and the soil. But the ritual is not yet complete. Persephone gestures toward another group of women, their faces marked with a special kind of solemnity. The past must nourish the future, she whispers. The ritual requires more than just sacrifice. It requires memory. These women are ritually pure, and their task is one of great importance. They approach a different part of the chasm. With ropes, they lower one of their own into the darkness. When she returns, she carries baskets filled with a dark, rich, loamy substance. That, Persephone explains, is what remains of last year's offerings. The bones, the dough, all of it, has been consumed by the earth and transformed. It is no longer a symbol of death. It has become a vessel of life. It is the earth's own sacred compost. You watch as this dark, potent earth is brought back to the camp and treated with the utmost reverence. It is carefully ritually mixed with the baskets of grain seed that the women have brought from their homes, the very seeds they will plant in their fields when they return. Do you see the beautiful, terrible circle? Persephone asks, her voice full of a quiet awe. Life from death, hope from decay. The sorrow of the past year becomes the nourishment for the year to come. My story, my descent into the darkness, is not just a tale to be told. It is a promise to be planted. It is the guarantee that even after being buried in the cold, hard ground, the seed will rise again. My return is their survival. It is all one and the same cycle. As the first faint hint of dawn touches the eastern sky, the ritual concludes. The women begin to dismantle their temporary shelters. Their chanting softens, replaced by a quiet, determined murmuring as they prepare to return to their lives, to their homes, to their fields. Their faces are still solemn, but you now see something else in their eyes, a renewed strength, a quiet certainty. They have done their sacred work. The secret has been kept, Persephone says softly. The earth has been fed, and in the hearts of these women, the promise of my return is now secure. They have reminded the world of its own rhythm. She turns to you, the torchlight casting a final, warm glow on her pale, beautiful face. The great temples of Zeus and Apollo are for the affairs of men, for politics, for war, for declarations of glory. But this is the worship of the earth itself. It is quieter, deeper, and it is done by those who understand the true nature of life and loss. It is the faith of women. She begins to lead you away, back down the hillside, as the women below begin their own journey home, their figures dark silhouettes against the rising sun. Let us leave them to their quiet certainty, she says, her voice, a final soothing lullaby. The prayer of the community has been offered. Let us continue our walk through the sleeping heart of the world. You are still standing with Persephone. The memory of the women's secret ritual on the hillside begins to fade, replaced by a new scene, a memory she now chooses to share with you. The air grows warmer, filled with the scent of sunlight and a million blooming flowers. Her voice, when she speaks, has lost the solemnity of the ritual and is now tinged with a fragile, distant nostalgia. The story of my departure. She begins, and her voice is like the memory of a half-forgotten song. It does not begin with a scream, nor with the clash of swords. It begins with the silence of a flower, a beauty so profound it was designed to hide an abyss. She invites you into her memory, and the world solidifies around you. You are no longer on a cold autumn hillside. You are standing in a meadow that stretches to the horizon, a boundless sea of green under a sky of perfect cloudless blue. The air is warm and heavy with the scent of life itself. It is the heady perfume of 1,000 blossoms, of wild mint crushed underfoot, of rich, sun-warmed earth. The sound of this place is a gentle symphony, the contented buzzing of bees drifting from one flower to the next, the soft whisper of the wind through tall grasses, and weaving through it all the sound of laughter, clear and bright as river water. You see them now, the oceanids, my companions of the light. We are a constellation of bright figures in this green expanse, our white tunics a stark contrast to the riot of color around us. We are weaving crowns from daisies and poppies, our fingers nimble, our hearts untroubled. This is my world as it was, a world of simple, unending joy, a world without shadow. It was a day like any other, she says, her voice a soft echo in this memory world. A day of blissful ignorance. But ignorance, however blissful, is a fragile shield. It was then that I saw it. At the very edge of the meadow, standing alone, was a flower unlike any I had ever seen. The others did not seem to notice it, their attention captured by the more common beauties around them. But this one called to me. It was a narcissus, but a narcissus of impossible perfection, a creation not of nature, but of divine will. Its petals were as pale as moonlight, its center a deep, hypnotic gold. Its scent was not like the others. It was a promise of a secret, its unknown joy. It was a lure, and I in my innocence was its willing target. I remember leaving my companions, their laughter fading behind me as I walked toward the solitary flower. I did not run. My steps were slow, drawn by a curiosity that was stronger than any caution. The world seemed to grow quiet as I approached. The buzzing of the bees softened. The wind held its breath. It was as if the meadow itself knew that a pivotal moment was at hand. I knelt before the flower. I remember the feel of the cool, soft grass beneath my knees. I remember reaching out my fingers, tracing the edge of a single perfect petal, and then I touched its stem. The moment my fingers closed around it, the silence became absolute, and the earth, my mother's earth, betrayed me. It did not tremble. It did not roar. It simply opened. Without a sound, a chasm appeared at my feet, a clean, dark tear in the fabric of the world. It was not a violent crack, but a silent, terrifying invitation into nothingness. The light of the sun was devoured by the perfect velvet black that rose from the depths. From that abyss emerged his chariot. It was not a thing of gold or bronze. It was forged from solidified shadow, pulled by 4 magnificent horses whose coats were the color of a starless midnight, and whose manes were made of drifting smoke. And upon the chariot stood a king. He was not a monster. He was a figure of silent, formidable authority, his face beautiful, but etched with the loneliness of eternity. In his eyes I saw the vast quiet emptiness of his own kingdom. It was Hades. He did not speak a word. There was no struggle, no plea. There was only a swift, silent motion. A dark cloak, cold as the grave, enveloped me. The world of sunlight, of laughter, of life was extinguished in an instant. The last thing I knew of that world was a single sharp intake of my own breath, a sound that became a faint, desperate echo lost on the empty air of the meadow above. The scene shifts. The sun-drenched meadow is gone. You are now with a new figure, a goddess whose grief is so immense it seems to bend the very air around her. It is Demeter. My mother, Persephone's voice continues now, filled with a deep, resonant sorrow. Heard that echo? A mother's heart is tuned to the soul of her child. She can hear its cry across worlds. She found the meadow, the scattered flowers, the trampled grass. But she did not find me. You witness now the beginning of her great, terrible search. She is a divine being, but her grief makes her profoundly human. She casts aside her godly raiment and dons the simple dark robes of a mourning woman. In her hands, she lights 2 great torches, and they become extensions of her own burning, restless sorrow. For 9 days and 9 nights, you watch her wander. She does not eat. She does not drink. She does not rest. She is a moving flame of anguish against the landscape of the world. Her feet become bruised and bloodied on the sharp stones of mountain passes. The dew on the grass in the morning is like her unending tears. The mournful sigh of the wind through the cypress trees is her own voice calling my name Kor into the empty sky. But no one answers. The gods on Olympus, in their fear or their indifference, remain silent. She was utterly alone in her grief. Persephone says her voice, a testament to her mother's desolation. And a god who is alone in their grief is the most dangerous force in the cosmos. On the 10th day, a figure emerges from the shadows to meet her. It is Hecate, the goddess of the crossroads. Her face veiled her presence, one of quiet power. She too carries a torch, a pale silver light against the darkness of my mother's despair. I heard her cry. Hecate tells my mother, her voice a low whisper. But I did not see who took her. She could offer empathy but not answers. She knew there was only one being who could have seen. And so together, the 2 goddesses, one of the harvest and one of the night journey to the east, to the golden palace of the sun. You see them confront Helios, the all-seeing god, as he guides his fiery chariot. He is a being of blinding light and absolute truth, and he cannot lie. With a sense of reluctant, sorrowful duty, he tells my mother what he saw. He tells her of Hades, the silent king who took me, but then he delivers the final, crushing blow. He tells her that this was no random act of a rogue god. It was a bargain, a pact. My own father Zeus, the king of all gods, had given me away. The betrayal is now complete. The hope that had sustained my mother through her long search shatters into a million pieces. And it was then Persephone's voice becomes cold, heavy as a stone, that her grief turned into something else. It became a weapon, a silent, unyielding wrath. You watch as she turns her back on Olympus, on the world of the gods who had abandoned her. She continues to wander the earth, but no longer as a seeker. She is now a living embodiment of sorrow, and as she walks, the world dies in her footsteps. Her rage is not loud. It is not a storm of lightning bolts. It is a quiet, terrible withdrawal. She pulls her gift, her very essence, back from the earth. The seeds in the ground refuse to sprout. The fruit trees let their blossoms fall barren and brown. The rivers grow sluggish, their waters seeming to mourn with her. The leaves on the trees turn brittle and fall not in the gentle rhythm of autumn, but with a sudden final surrender. The soil grows hard and unyielding, like a heart that has been broken one too many times. A famine begins silent and inexorable. It starts with the mortals their pleas for grain, now met with empty fields. But it spreads as all true sorrows do. Soon the offerings on the altars of the gods themselves begin to cease. There is no wine, no bread, no sacrificial animal to be had. The world of men and the world of gods are both starving. This is the power of a mother's grief. She did not scream at the heavens. She simply let the world die. She let it feel the same vast cold emptiness that now resided in her own heart. The sundering was complete. You are still standing in the memory of a world dying under a mother's grief. The air is cold and thin, the sky a perpetual, sorrowful gray. Persephone's voice, no longer just a guide, but the heart of this memory continues her tale. Her tone shifts from the cold finality of grief to the faint, fragile beginnings of change. The grief of a god. She says, her voice a low hum against the silence of the barren world, can make the earth forget how to live. My mother, in her boundless sorrow, had commanded the world to die with her, and it was obeying. But there is a truth. Even a grieving goddess cannot change a truth that even the mighty Zeus in his high mountain court could not ignore. The gods of Olympus, for all their power and their nectar, cannot live without bread and wine. They cannot thrive in a world that no longer offers them worship, for mortal faith is a kind of nourishment for the immortal soul. You feel the perspective shift, lifting from the dying earth to the golden peaks of Mount Olympus. Here the halls that once echoed with laughter and music are now filled with a tense, anxious quiet. The altars are cold, the scent of roasting meat and rich libations, replaced by the thin, sterile air of a world without sacrifice. The gods themselves are restless, their divine forms shadowed by the hunger of a faithless world. They look to their king Zeus, the architect of this sorrow, and their eyes are full of accusation. He had made a pact in the shadows, and now that pact threatened to starve the heavens themselves. My father, Persephone continues, a note of cold irony in her voice, is not often moved by the suffering of mortals, but the suffering of gods, that is another matter. He was forced to act, not from compassion for my mother, not from regret for his own secret dealings, but from necessity. The king of all creation was forced to bow not to a rival power, but to the unyielding grief of a mother who refused to be comforted. And so a decree is made. A mission is planned. He summons the one God who can walk between all worlds, the one whose feet are as swift as his mind, whose words are as slick and persuasive as honeyed wine. He summons Hermes. You see him now, the messenger god, standing before the throne of Zeus. He is a being of vibrant, restless energy, his winged sandals fluttering with impatience, his caduceus humming with latent power. He listens to the command of his king, a task of diplomacy so delicate it could shatter with a single misplaced word. He is to journey into the darkness, to stand before the throne of my husband, and to bring the spring back to a dying world. He is to bring me home. You follow Hermes on his journey. It is a flight that takes you through the three great stages of existence. He leaves the gleaming, eternal light of Olympus, a realm now tainted with anxiety. He streaks through the mortal world, and you see from above the devastation my mother's grief has wrought. The fields are brown and barren, the forests are skeletal and silent, the rivers are sluggish and gray. The world of men is a place of silent, starving prayer. Then he arrives at the edge of the world, at a hidden cave wreathed in mist, the gateway to the underworld. For any other god, this would be a forbidden threshold, but for Hermes, it is just another path. He does not hesitate. He plunges into the darkness, his own divine light, a single shooting star in the vast consuming gloom. The kingdom of the dead, Persephone's voice explains as the scene reforms around you, is not a place of fire and torment as some mortals imagine. That is a fate reserved for a select few. The true nature of my husband's realm is silence. It is a place of vast echoing majesty, of profound and unshakable stillness. You are standing in the great hall of Hades. The ceiling is so high it is lost in shadow, and the walls are carved from polished black obsidian that seems to drink the very light. There are no torches here. The only illumination comes from the cold internal fire of a million gemstones embedded in the rock diamonds, sapphires, and rubies that glitter with a light that offers no warmth. Before you on a great throne of carved stone sits my husband Hades. He is not a demon. He is a king, his posture one of solemn, lonely authority. And beside him, on a smaller identical throne, I am sitting. I am a queen of shadow. My skin is pale as the narcissus flower, my dark robes a stark contrast to the bright silks I once wore. I am no longer a frightened girl. I have begun to learn the nature of this quiet, eternal kingdom. Hermes approaches the throne. Even he, the confident and charming messenger, walks with a measure of caution in this hall. He delivers his message, his words echoing in the vast silence. He speaks of the dying world, of the starving gods, of the command of Zeus. Hades listens. His face is an unreadable mask. He does not show anger nor surprise. He simply listens until Hermes is done. A long, heavy silence follows. You can feel the weight of his decision, a choice that will determine the fate of the world above. He was not bound by my father's command, Persephone says quietly. The law of his own kingdom is absolute. He could have refused. He could have kept me there and let the world above wither into dust. But he is a king, and a king understands balance. He is also lonely. He knew that a queen who is a prisoner is no queen at all. A heart that is forced to stay will never truly belong to him. And so he agrees. He gives his consent for me to return with Hermes. But his eyes, as he looks at me, hold a silent, profound understanding that is also a kind of trap. His agreement seems too easy. As I rise ready to leave this kingdom of shadow, ready to return to the light and the arms of my mother, he stops me. You must be hungry from your long stay. He says, his voice, the first I have heard from him, a low, resonant rumble, like stones shifting in the deep earth. Take a small refreshment for your journey. It is not a command. It is an offer, a gesture of seemingly simple courtesy. One of his silent, shadowy attendants brings forward a single fruit, a pomegranate. In the cold, glittering light of the hall, it seems like a great dark jewel. Its skin is tough and leathery, the color of dried blood. He breaks it open with his hands, and the seeds within spill out onto a black obsidian plate. They are a cluster of perfect crimson gems, each one glistening like a drop of captured wine. Just a taste, he says, his eyes holding mine. I am dazed, caught between the joy of my imminent return and the strange, solemn pull of this silent world. I am thirsty. I am hungry. It seems such a small, harmless thing. And so, almost without thinking, I take a few of the seeds into my hand, 6 of them, and I eat them. The taste is a burst of sweetness and tartness, a shocking explosion of life in this place of death. It is the last gift from my husband. It is also the unbreakable chain. For the ancient law of the fates is absolute. Anyone who eats the food of the dead may never fully leave the land of the dead. With that small, thoughtless act, my fate was sealed. The scene dissolves and reforms. You are back on the earth in a field that is no longer barren. The reunion is a storm of emotion. The moment my feet touch the soil of the world above, Persephone's voice narrates now soaring with the memory of joy, life returned. It was as if the earth itself was exhaling a breath it had been holding for an entire season. The grass turned green at my touch. The trees burst into blossom. The rivers ran clear and fast. The world awoke. You see my mother running towards me, her dark mourning robes cast aside, her face a canvas of disbelief and overwhelming love. Our reunion is a collision of tears and laughter, the embrace of a mother and daughter who thought they were lost to each other forever. The world rejoices with us. But in the midst of this overwhelming joy, my mother pulls back her eyes, suddenly sharp with a terrible ancient suspicion. My child, she asks, her voice trembling, tell me the truth. Did you eat anything in the world below? The joy freezes in my heart. I look at her, and I cannot lie. I tell her of the pomegranate. I tell her of the 6 small seeds, and you watch as the joy on her face crumbles, replaced by a slow, dawning horror. She knows the law. She knows what it means. I can never truly, completely be hers again. The world was saved. Persephone says, her voice now settling into a tone of bittersweet finality, but at a cost. Our family was forever broken, and so a new bargain had to be struck, a new balance found. You see another figure descend from the heavens, the great mother goddess Rhea, my own grandmother sent by Zeus to broker the final peace. The compromise is made. It is decreed that for every seed I ate, I must spend 1 month in the underworld. 6 seeds, 6 months. And so the rhythm of the world was born from my divided heart. When I return to my mother in the spring, the earth celebrates with me, bursting into a riot of flowers and new life. My time with her is the long, warm, sun-drenched glory of summer. But as the time for my departure nears, the world begins to share our sorrow. That is your autumn, a season of beautiful melancholic farewells. And the months when I am gone, when I sit on my dark throne as queen of the underworld, that is your winter. It is the time of my mother's renewed grief, when she once again withdraws her warmth from the world, and the earth sleeps waiting as she does for my return. The cycle is complete. The world is saved, but it is a world forever marked by our story, a world that must now live with both the light and the shadow. It is a world of balance, born from a broken heart. You are standing in the memory of a world restored to balance. The seasons have found their rhythm, a cycle of sorrow and joy. But the story is not over. Persephone's voice returns no longer, just telling the tale of the past, but now inviting you into one of its most profound and secret consequences. My story. She begins, her voice taking on a new, more solemn tone, a tone of hushed reverence. Did more than just explain the turning of your world. It did more than give a name to winter's cold and a reason for spring's return. It offered something more, a promise, a whisper of hope against the great silent fear that haunts every mortal heart. It was a promise only for those who were willing to listen, for those who dared to leave the sunlit world behind and walk the sacred way. She gestures, and the world around you shifts. You are no longer in a timeless mythic space. You are in a specific place, a city humming with life, its marble buildings gleaming under the brilliant Attic sun. This is Athens, and something is about to happen. The promise I speak of, she says, is a mystery, not a riddle to be solved, but a truth to be experienced. And that experience begins here. It begins with a choice to set aside the mundane, to quiet the noise of ordinary life, and to prepare the soul for a different kind of sight. You see the people of the city beginning to prepare. For 9 days before the great pilgrimage, a sacred truce is declared. Business slows. Legal disputes are put on hold. The city seems to take a long, deep breath. Those who wish to be initiated, the mystics begin their purification. You see them abstaining from certain foods, the humble bean which was thought to hold the souls of the dead, certain kinds of fish from the sea, the meat of the rooster, the herald of a dawn they were preparing to leave behind. This is not merely a diet. It is a process of emptying, of making the body a clean and quiet vessel ready to receive a great truth. On one of these days, you witness a procession moving through the city. Priests and priestesses are from Eleusis. The site of the great mystery carry sacred objects, the hira from their sanctuary, to a temple at the base of the Acropolis. The objects are hidden from sight, carried in sealed chests, but their presence is a powerful one. The entire city stops to watch them pass, a current of awe and reverence rippling through the crowd. This is the first taste of the mystery, a glimpse of a holiness that is usually hidden from the world. They are preparing their hearts, Persephone whispers to you. They are reminding themselves that there are worlds beyond the one they can see and touch. They are preparing to walk a path that will take them from the world of men to the world of the gods. And then the day of the great pilgrimage arrives. You find yourself standing at the Diplon gate of Athens at dawn. A vast crowd has gathered, a river of humanity ready to flow from the city. And as you look closer, you see that this river is made of every kind of person. There are wealthy aristocrats in fine dyed robes standing beside humble farmers whose hands are stained with the soil of their fields. There are learned philosophers with scrolls tucked into their belts, and there are soldiers whose faces are lined with the memory of battle. There are women both high-born and common. There are even slaves for whom this is the one time of the year they are considered equal to their masters. On the sacred way, all are simply mystic souls in search of an answer. The procession begins. It is not a march. It is a slow, steady flowing movement, a single body of thousands moving as one. A cloud of fine pale dust rises from the road, illuminated by the morning sun, and it hangs in the air like a golden mist. The only sound is the soft shuffling tread of thousands of feet and a low, steady chanting of hymns, ancient songs in praise of my mother and me, a sound like the humming of a great sacred beehive. This is the sacred way, Persephone explains, as you join the flow, an unseen traveler in their midst. It is a journey of 22 kilometers from the city of men to the sanctuary of the gods. Every step on this road is a part of the ritual. Every stone holds a memory. The journey is long. The sun climbs high in the sky. The initial excitement of the crowd settles into a steady meditative rhythm. They stop at certain points along the road, a sacred fig tree, a small shrine to a local hero, the tomb of a long-dead priestess. At each stop, prayers are offered, libations are poured. Then you reach a bridge spanning the small Cephissus River, and here the solemnity is shattered by a strange and unexpected ritual. Masked figures, priests of the bridge, stand on either side, and as the pilgrims pass, they shout jests and ritual insults at them. They mock the wealthy for their fine clothes, the politicians for their long speeches, the beautiful for their vanity. The pilgrims do not take offense. They laugh. This is the Gephyrismos. Persephone's voice murmurs in your ear, a note of amusement in her tone. It seems strange, does it not, to be insulted on a sacred journey? But this too is a form of purification. It is to remind them of their mortal frailties, of their egos, of their attachments to the world they are leaving behind. It is a moment of humility, a stripping away of pride before they stand in the presence of the divine. Laughter, you see, can be as purifying as any sacred water. The procession continues their spirits, lighter, now humbled and bonded by the shared strange experience. As the afternoon wanes, they finally see it in the distance. Eleusis, the great sanctuary nestled between the hills, and the sea, its grand halls waiting. A new energy surges through the crowd, a feeling of relief and of a final heightened anticipation. They have almost arrived. But there is one last ritual to perform, perhaps the most important of all. Before they can enter the sacred precinct, they must be washed clean. The entire procession turns from the road and moves towards the glittering expanse of the bay. You stand on the shore and watch a sight of incredible primal power. Thousands of people, from the highest to the lowest, wade into the cool, salty water of the sea. And each person you now see carries a small young piglet in their arms. The air is filled with the sound of splashing water and the high-pitched, frightened squeals of the animals. They immerse both themselves and the piglets in the cleansing water, a shared baptism in the great purifying womb of the sea. The salt of the ocean washes away the dust of the road. Persephone explains her voice, full of the scene's elemental power. It washes away the impurities of the mundane world. The piglet is a creature of the earth, a substitute for the initiate's own soul. They are washed together, so they may be sacrificed together. The animal will be offered to us its life, given in exchange for the initiate's new spiritual life. It is a powerful and terrible bargain, the exchange of flesh for hope. You watch as they emerge from the water, their hair streaming their robes, clinging to their bodies, their faces set with a new, profound seriousness. They are no longer a diverse crowd of individuals. They have been unified by the water, by the shared ritual. They are clean, they are ready. They reform their procession and walk the final distance to the great gates of the sanctuary. The sun is setting now, casting long shadows, painting the sky in shades of orange and deep purple. The outer journey is over. They have walked the path they have endured, the insults they have been washed in the sea. They now stand at the threshold of the mystery itself. Beyond this gate, Persephone says her voice, a final hushed whisper as the pilgrims fall silent before the entrance. They will leave the light of day and the world they have always known. Tonight they will enter the darkness. They will face the silence, and there they will hope to find a different kind of light, a truth that cannot be spoken, only seen. The great secret is waiting. You are standing with Persephone in the memory of Eleusis. The sun has set, and the thousands of initiates, having been purified in the sea, now stand with a new solemn purpose before the great gates of the sanctuary. A deep, expectant hush has fallen over the crowd. Persephone's voice is now a reverent whisper, as if she herself is in awe of the sacred moment about to unfold. Beyond this gate, she says, her voice barely disturbing the twilight air. They leave behind the light of day and the world they have always known. They leave behind their names, their statuses, their worldly cares. Inside, they will face the darkness. They will face the great silence. And there they will hope to find a different kind of light, a truth that cannot be spoken, only seen. You watch as the massive stone gates of the sanctuary, grown open not with a sharp creak, but with a low, deep rumble, like the sound of the earth itself sighing. The crowd moves forward not as a chaotic mass, but as a single flowing river of souls pouring into the sacred precinct within. The air here feels different, thicker, heavier, with the weight of centuries of prayer. Inside the outer courts, the initiates gather one last time. Priests and priestesses move among them, their faces veiled, their movements slow and ritualistic. They carry small earthenware cups, and from a larger vessel, they pour a single portion for each initiate. This is the kykeon, Persephone explains to you. It is not wine to bring intoxication. It is a sacred potion, the same one my mother drank to break her long fast when she rested here during her search for me. It is a simple mixture of barley water and pennyroyal mint. Its taste is earthy and strange. It is a drink to quiet the body, to cleanse the palate of the mundane world, and to open the mind for what is to come. You watch as each person, the nobleman, the farmer, the slave, drinks their portion. It is a final act of communion, a shared sacrament that binds them together before they face the great unknown. They then swear a final vow, their voices a low collective murmur, promising to keep secret all that they are about to see and hear, under penalty of death and divine wrath. The promise is made. The final threshold is before them. They are led now towards the heart of the sanctuary, a building of immense and imposing size, unlike any temple you have seen before. It is the telesterion, the hall of initiation. Its stone walls seem to rise up into the night sky, and you feel a shiver of anticipation and a touch of primal fear. This is a place of great power. The great doors of the hall are opened, and the initiates file inside. You follow them, an invisible guest, in this most secret of rituals. The moment you are inside, the doors are closed and barred the sound of the heavy wooden beam falling into place, a note of terrifying finality. And then there is darkness. It is not the gentle darkness of a moonlit night. It is an absolute, perfect, man-made darkness, a blackness so profound that it seems to have a physical weight. All sight is gone. You are adrift in a sea of nothingness. For a long time, perhaps, for hours, the only sensations are the cool, smooth feel of the stone floor beneath you and the sound of your own heart beating in your ears. You can feel the presence of hundreds of other souls around you, their soft, shallow breathing, the only proof that you are not alone. Here in the darkness, Persephone's voice whispers, seeming to come not from beside you, but from within your own mind. The self begins to dissolve. You are no longer a farmer, a soldier, a nobleman. Your wealth, your history, your name, they all melt away into the shadows. You are only a soul waiting. This waiting, this emptiness, is the most crucial part of the journey. The vessel must be empty before it can be filled. The silence stretches on, becoming a living entity. It is a silence filled with anticipation, with fear, with hope. The air grows thick with unspoken questions. And just when the tension becomes almost unbearable, the silence is broken. It begins with a sound, a single desperate cry echoing through the vast dark hall. It is a girl's voice, my voice crying out as I am pulled into the earth. Then the sound of a great mournful wail, my mother's grief-given voice. A sudden blinding flash of light illuminates the hall for a heartbeat, and in that flash you see a vision, a goddess in dark robes, her face a mask of sorrow, wandering through a barren world, holding two great torches that burn with a smokeless divine fire. Then darkness returns even more profound than before. What follows is not a play. It is a fever dream of sound and light. You hear the furious drumming of a chariot's wheels, the mournful chanting of ancient hymns, the whispers of gods in conflict. You experience the story not as an audience, but as a participant. You feel my mother's frantic search, her growing despair. You feel the world turning cold, the onset of the great famine. You are immersed in the raw elemental emotions of the myth. This is the dramana, the things done. You are living the story. After what feels like an eternity of chaos and sorrow, a new, deeper silence falls. The visions cease, the sounds fade. There is only the darkness and the sound of your own ragged breathing. You have been taken to the very edge of despair, shown the world at its end. And then a new light begins to grow. It is not the harsh, sudden flash of a torch. It is a soft, gentle, miraculous glow spreading from the center of the hall. The light is warm golden and unbelievably beautiful after the long hours of darkness. As the light grows, it reveals the figure of the Hierophant, the high priest, standing alone on a raised platform. His face is serene, his expression one of transcendent peace. He is a beacon of hope in the aftermath of the storm. He does not speak. The greatest truths you now understand are beyond words. He simply raises his hands, and in them he holds the final revelation. This is the de ignoumena, the things shown. And what he held, Persephone's voice says filled with the memory of that sacred light, was not a crown of gold, nor a jewel from my husband's kingdom. It was not a sacred text filled with complicated doctrines. It was something far simpler and infinitely more profound. You see it now held aloft in the golden light for all the initiates to witness. He holds up a single freshly harvested stalk of grain. The hall is filled with a collective silent gasp. In that one simple object, the entire mystery is revealed. The initiates see it all. They see the seed which must fall from the light into the darkness of the earth, just as I fell from the meadow. They see it lie dormant in the cold ground, seemingly dead just as I lived in the kingdom of the underworld. And they see it rise again, breaking through the soil, reaching for the sun, returning to the world as new life, just as I returned to my mother each spring. In that single perfect stalk of grain, they see the entire unbreakable cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And in that moment, Persephone concludes, their fear is gone. The terror of death, which had haunted them their entire lives, simply dissolves. For they have now understood death is not an end. It is not a void. It is a necessary journey into the darkness. It is a period of silent waiting before a glorious return to the light. It is a part of the cycle, as natural and as necessary as winter. A deep, unshakable peace fills the hall. The light softens, and the great doors of the telesterion are opened. The first pale light of dawn streams in, and the initiates, their faces transformed, file out into the new day. They do not speak of what they have seen. The vow of silence is not a burden to them now. It is a way of protecting the sanctity of the miracle they have witnessed. They do not carry out a new set of laws or a secret piece of knowledge. They carry out a new feeling in their hearts, a profound and lasting peace, a release from the greatest of all mortal fears. They have walked through the darkness and have been reborn into the light. The promise of Eleusis has been fulfilled. The memory of the Eleusinian mysteries fades, leaving behind a sense of profound peace and a silent, shared secret. You are once again standing with Persephone in a timeless, ethereal space, a twilight world that is neither the world above nor the world below. The story has been told, the rituals witnessed. Now all that remains is to understand the hearts of the gods who created this great cyclical drama. You have seen the peace my story brings to mortals. She begins her voice, now holding the quiet, resonant wisdom of both a queen and a philosopher. You have witnessed how they find solace in the rhythm I provide, how they have turned my fate into a map for their own hopes and fears. But to truly understand the balance of the world, you must understand the hearts of those who first broke it. You must understand the nature of gods, for we are not so different from you. We are merely larger, and our feelings have the power to shape the very earth you walk upon. She gestures, and an image forms in the twilight air before you. It is the throne room of the underworld, a place of vast silent majesty, lit by the cold fire of 1,000,000 gemstones. You see the king, my husband, seated upon his throne of polished obsidian. Let us first speak of him, she says, her voice devoid of anger, filled instead with a deep, ancient empathy. The world of mortals, and even the gods on Olympus, they speak of him as a villain, a dark ravisher, a king of terrors. They see only the abduction, the act of a thief in the light. They do not see the why. They do not understand the nature of his kingdom or of his heart. His realm, she continues, is not a place of punishment. It is a place of memory. Every soul that has ever lived, every story that has ever been told, every love that has ever been felt, They all come to rest here, silent whispers in the great echoing halls. He is the guardian of all that has been. He is a king of ghosts, a ruler of dust and echoes, and his existence is one of profound, unyielding, and eternal loneliness. You look at the figure on the throne, and for the first time you see not a tyrant, but a solitary being presiding over an empire of silence. Can you imagine it? Persephone asks softly. To rule a kingdom where no one laughs, where no one sings, where every subject is merely a fading memory of the vibrant life they once knew. He saw the world above my world as a constant painful reminder of everything he did not have. He saw the warmth, the light, the color, the chaos of life, and he saw me, a flower in a sun-drenched meadow, a being of pure, untroubled light. His act of taking me was not one of malice. It was an act of divine cosmic desperation. It was the desperate attempt of a being starved of life to bring a single living flower into his world of shadow. He did not want to crush me. He wanted to possess the light I represented. He thought, as so many do, that if he could only own the beautiful thing, its beauty would become his. And the pomegranate, she adds a note of complex understanding in her voice that was not merely a trick. It was the act of a king who knows the rules of his own realm better than anyone, but it was also the act of a being terrified of returning to his solitude. Those 6 seeds were not just a chain to bind me. They were an anchor, a desperate plea to ensure that the silence would not be absolute, that a glimmer of life would be forced to return to his halls each year. He is a king of shadows, yes, but even a shadow yearns for a little light. The image of Hades fades, replaced by a vision of a goddess wandering a barren, sun-scorched field, her face a mask of fiery righteous grief. And then there is my mother, Persephone says, her tone shifting to one of both awe and a certain fear. If my husband's heart is a cavern of cold, silent loneliness, my mother's is a star of burning, consuming fire. Her love is not gentle, it is absolute. It is a force of nature as powerful and as untamable as the growth of the grain itself. When she lost me, her grief was not the quiet sorrow of a mortal mother. It was a divine rage, a refusal to accept the reality of loss. She did not just weep for me. She commanded the world to weep with her. Her love for me was so possessive, so total, that she would rather see every mortal on earth starve, every altar of the gods grow cold, than to live in a world without me by her side. That is the other side of love's great power. It is the force that creates all life, but when wounded, it is also the force that can unmake the world. She is not a simple victim in this story. She is a power as formidable and as dangerous as any god who has ever wielded a thunderbolt. The images of the 2 great warring gods dissolve, and you are left with only Persephone, a calm, solitary figure in the twilight. And what of me? She asks a genuine question directed as much to herself as to you. Caught between the lonely king and the grieving mother, between a kingdom of silence and a world of furious love. For a long time, I did not know who I was. Was I the frightened girl from the meadow, or the silent queen on an obsidian throne? She pauses, looking down at her own hands, as if seeing them for the first time. In the world above, I was Kor the maiden. My life was one of simple joy, of sunlight, of innocence. I was the flower that did not know the earth from which it grew. It was a beautiful existence, but it was an incomplete one. I did not understand the nature of shadow, and so I could not truly understand the value of light. In the world below, she continues, and her voice grows stronger, more resonant. I learned a different kind of power. It was not the power of growth, but the power of stillness. I learned to listen to the whispers of the dead, to walk the silent corridors of memory. I learned the great quiet wisdom of the roots of the world, the foundation upon which all life is built. I became the one soul who understood both. I am no longer just the maiden who was stolen, nor the queen who was bound. She says her voice, now a perfect balance of warmth and coolness. I am both. I am the flower that knows the darkness of the soil from which it grows. I am the seed that understands its own death is a necessary part of its life. I am the bridge between the two great truths of your world, the brilliant, fleeting beauty of life and the deep, silent wisdom of death. And in my heart, I carry the balance of them both. She turns to you, and in her eyes, you see no conflict, only a profound and peaceful acceptance of her own dual nature. And that, she says, is what my story truly offers to you. It is a map for your own heart. When you feel the first tentative warmth of spring, she explains her voice a gentle caress. When you see the first green shoots push their way through the hard, cold earth, you are feeling my mother's joy at my return. The world so is rejoicing with her. When you live through the long golden days of summer, you are living in the embrace of our reunion, a time of warmth and effortless abundance. When you feel that beautiful, gentle melancholy of autumn, she continues, when the leaves turn to fire and the air grows crisp, you are feeling our long, slow farewell. The world is preparing for my departure, finding a sad beauty in the decay. And when you sit by your own fire in the dead of winter, in the deepest, darkest night of the year, and the world outside is cold and silent and seems to be asleep, you are sharing in my mother's vigil. You are waiting in the darkness with her, but you are not without hope, for you know the story. You know that the darkness is not an end. You know that I will return. That is the promise of my myth. She concludes her voice a final, soothing balm. It is a promise that even in the deepest grief, there is the seed of joy. That even in the most absolute darkness, there is the memory and the promise of light. It gives a name and a reason to the cycles of your own life, to your own seasons of the heart. It provides order to the beautiful, terrible chaos of existence. And now, she says, her form beginning to grow translucent, her voice becoming one with the sighing of the wind, your own small winter has come. The quiet darkness of your room, the heavy comfort of your blankets. It is your time to descend not into a world of shadow, but into the peaceful restorative kingdom of your own sleep. Let my story be your promise. The light will return. The spring always returns. Her image fades completely, leaving you alone with the gentle sounds of the night and with the deep, quiet peace of her final lesson. You are left with the understanding that every cycle of sleep and waking is a small, personal echo of this great and ancient story. The cycle is complete. The last seed has been sown in darkness. Rest now. The promise of spring's return, the hope the world awaits through its long winter, is now yours. Sleep well.